Skewb Novus was created in 2020 and launched to our first client in 2022. It was created to transform the approach to managing water networks, bringing genuine insights through AI and effective data management, machine learning techniques, to be able to better manage supply, leakage, interruptions and demand. Since its inception, it's grown substantially, and the breadth and depth of all of the insights that are coming into it through different data sources means it's consistently learning and driving better outcomes. I'm Andy Morris, Director of Products, and joining me for a deep dive into this product are Tony Summerscales and Victoria Nevin. Let's start with both of you walking us through the first time you came across Novus and what your initial impressions of it were.
Thanks, Andy. The first Novus conversations, I suppose, started back at the early days of Skewb, when a small number of us got together on a Sunday afternoon and started talking through the problems with leakage. And typically what we were looking at that point was the existing products on the market that were focused very much on measurement but not activity and management. And that, for me, was really the starting point of how Novus came together.
Yeah, and I actually got involved in Skewb Novus before it was an official product. When it was just a concept, I worked with one of our data scientists who's still with us today, because we were trying to understand the impact of COVID-19 with one of the water companies that we were supporting. And the problem was we needed to use AI and machine learning to do this, because throughout the COVID impact, we'd seen a lot of skipped meter reads, as supply chain partners weren't allowed to visit customer properties to meet the meters. So there are a number of gaps in the data. And that meant that we had to use the AI and machine learning to support making assumptions about what usage could have been. So it was still pre-product, but the concept of what was to become our key modelling capability was used to help with that.
Okay, Tony, how is it transforming the way companies deal with leakage?
Less than 25 minutes, Tony.
In less than 25 minutes. So one of the things the leakage challenge has brought to the industry is a wealth of activity. There's an enormous amount of detection and repair activity day in, day out. When we look at our clients, they've got tens, if not hundreds, of leakage technicians working across the network every day. And to actually be able to visualize and understand when that work is being effective and whether it's giving you the value that you want as a business, there really wasn't anything in the market that could do that. And so when we introduced Novus with our clients, it's about bringing together all those data points and understanding what's happening, why, and the value that it's creating. Now, the other part of the Novus function, of course, with the substantial sort of machine learning AI engine that sits behind it, is we can start to understand consumption better. When we can understand consumption much better and in a more real-time basis, then our understanding of leakage at a DMA level is transformed. So by being able to change the way we target the areas we go into, use the model again to identify the hotspots within there, so not just targeting at DMA level, but down to street level, we can be more efficient with our team's time. And then by using that data aggregation, we can play that back at a management level, at an exec level, and demonstrate exactly how the teams are working and how that company is dealing with their leakage challenge.
Yeah, and targeting doesn't just help on the leakage side, it's also incredibly valuable on the consumption side. As we know, companies are struggling to reduce their customers' usage and manage the supply deficits they're seeing through a number of factors: population increases, climate change, and changes in behaviour since the COVID pandemic. So having the insight at your fingertips to be able to understand what customers are using the water, and more specifically where they're using the water, is completely invaluable. And exactly as you said, Tony, there isn't any other offering on the market that brings together this amount of data to generate that precise a prediction about who's using what where.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Nev. And that understanding, I mean, when we look at the AMP8, the future and the next 5 years in the sector, then smart metering is part of a lot of those strategies. But a lot of those strategies for smart metering are 10 years long. There's not enough time to wait to resolve the leakage challenge or the PCC challenge to wait on smart meterings being delivered.
Yeah.
But as smart metering comes through, Novus is designed to start to ingest that and learn from those. So we're getting value from smart metering in year 1 of a smart metering program instead of year 6 or year 7 when we get in the coverage of the properties that would be required to give that same level of insight.
And in addition to the more traditional data sets that you see from water companies, so smart metering data is obviously relatively new, but we've ingested metering data and tried to analyse that for a number of years at this point. In addition to the traditional data set, I think what Skewb Novus brings to the table is it's drawing on different types of best practice data from innovative sources, such as open data sets, such as LiDAR satellite data, such as information that was made available throughout the pandemic in terms of travel, consumption profiles from non-household properties. And all that stuff adds to being able to come up with a more precise idea of who's using what where. But it also means that you're just not going to be able to be more accurate about what's happening on your network at any given time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's a key differentiator. When we look at the analysis that's typically done in-house by a water company, they are working with the data that's in front of them from their own business. The way the Novus model works is it's ingesting many times more data points from external sources. And it's that myriad of data points, vehicle movements and curtilages of properties and the colour of the grass, as everything goes into that model. And it gives us such a fascinating insight. And it's the speed of the insight too.
You can just tell how excited Tony is about our product. It's one of the things that we talk about a lot in Skewb. And I know we've got loads of other offerings coming through at the moment. I mean, Andy, have you got any thoughts on what you're most excited to see coming through?
Yeah, I think you're covering off some of the key data sets that we sort of plug into with Novus. The growth of that, there's more and more data becoming openly available. So we're not having to go and challenge the water companies themselves to be producing this information. Traffic and travel that you've mentioned, property boundaries, the colour of the grass, all of those things, growing those data sets, number of paddling pools being sold, it's the growth of that. And of course, stepping also into, the waste sphere means that there's more information available again now, every single, and I think this is the thing. It's allowing these models and this technology underneath the hood to give the insights you just would never have known. And that's that. More and more of that. It's learning all the time. It's obviously smart metering will be really helpful, both with us being able to say where the best coverage is going to be from going and getting the smart meters into the right places to give even more accurate readings across your demographics. But then also, of course, everything, every one operation has an impact. We've done a lot of work with our clients with Skewb Novus, both from not looking at leakage independently, but looking at leakage alongside demand. But then also how the bigger interruptions and bursts on the network and what ongoing impact that then has, and then right up as far as obviously where we're doing much more now in the predictive space, because all of this can also look forwards, is being able to see what's likely to happen and be able to do something about it. Which is make sure there's enough water there to service the demands, but also then where you're most likely to see the failures.
And I think that's one of the big changes Novus is bringing into the industry. Is historically we've looked backwards. You go into a meeting, you talk about what you did last week or the week before, and what we want, or what we are doing is creating what's now becoming a forward view. And that sort of evolution of the Novus modelling will start to very quickly move us into predicting outbreak and predicting impact. So that leakage focus moves forwards, or looks forwards as opposed to looking backwards. In terms of the waste side of things, you touched on that, Andy, and that's that future again, is waste modelling. All this data helps us understand how the waste network is going to behave too, and that's very much part of the future.
I think I could agree completely. You said that one of the key benefits was the ability to look forward as opposed to looking back. I also think that traditionally the role of looking at data sets was confined to, sort of planners or modelers or data junkies who sat in back rooms and kind of coded away at stuff. And I think one of the key pieces of feedback that we often receive from our clients is how usable Skewb Novus is. It makes it sound very complicated that we integrate all these data sources into a single pane of glass view. But in fact, what you're looking at is a really clear and easy dashboard. It just tells you what you need to know and where you need to go, and it's so easy to use.
And to that point, the granular nature, everything's built from the smallest component. So when you're in that dashboard view, being able to drill all the way down and actually see the job in the street represented, it takes away so much of the guesswork and so much of the estimation in those management meeting situations that we really can be confident in the numbers we're looking at and understand exactly what we need to do to improve performance.
So how are the clients using this on a day-to-day basis, Tony?
So in terms of leakage management, it starts at that sort of exec level view where they can understand how the teams are delivering across their whole regions. At that local regional manager view, then there is a further drill down in terms of the activity. I mean, one of the key things that we're doing here is we're aggregating all of those disparate systems together: the GIS, the flow and data information, the acoustic log and information, the works management. Being able to see all the outstanding jobs in a DMA that you're targeting at the press of a button is taking hours out of the process for the analyst, and the analyst is then deploying work to the field technician. And even in that process there, Novus is now filling that gap. Instead of producing a paper pack, it's about pressing a button, and you're not just launching a drawing to a leakage tech, you're giving them all of the flow data and acoustic data and all the information, all the historic job data, all going out to the field in one place, and they can have that on their tablet and they can work through their detection activities effectively and efficiently with all of their information in front of them. So in terms of that sort of daily, weekly cycle, it becomes central. And then those other corporate systems, they don't go away, but they become the basis for those data points. But if you want to see what's going on, you've got it all in one place in Novus.
And how does it affect the demand management space?
I mean, there really aren't that many other systems on the market that can give you water efficiency information about your household and business customers in one place. So companies that don't have Skewb Novus would have to try and go through multiple systems, as Tony mentioned in leakage. A lot of them are focused on billing and they don't necessarily capture any information about water consumption. If you've got Skewb Novus, you log in the morning and you've got your high-level metrics at the top that tell you who's using what across the company. There's a heat map that tells you who's using the most by region, by water resource zone, or by DMA. There's also a list of your top 100 customers, either household customers or non-household customers. You can see the individual property and why they're using water. And there's a graph that we lovingly refer to as the movers and shakers, so you can understand who's changed their usage most in the past couple of months. So all this information is just at your fingertips for what is going on in your network at the moment. And then additionally, you can also click onto your predictive consumption overview and you can have a look at what you think is going to happen next weekend. So if you're a water efficiency manager and you know that you had a problem last bank holiday May and it's been warm recently and you think you might have a problem coming up, you can better target your strategies to deal with what could be a potentially peak weekend of consumption.
Okay, great. And any further thoughts to add?
I think from my perspective, having been in the industry a long time, this is game-changing. The way we bring everything together, the way we manage teams, this is really going to set us on the right path around paid.
Yeah, and what excites me about Skewb Novus is the fact that this will help companies have an evidence base or have the data-driven insights to be able to make strategic decisions.
Okay, great. Thank you both. Thank you for listening. If you want to hear more about Skewb Novus, then contact Skewb today.